Ishaq. I have heard that Julius the Jew used to make false professions of Islam, so Allah sent down, Satan wishes to lead them astray.
Yes, he most certainly does, and he did this in Quran 4:63. This is one of the many verses Allah uses to coax young Muslim boys into becoming terrorists.
Ishaq. O Muhammad, give me permission to stay at home and don't tempt me to fight. So Allah sent down, of him who says, Give me leave to stay home and tempt me not, surely it is into temptation they have fallen, and hell encompasses them.
You'll find this in 9:49. The Quran says that peaceful Muslims who refuse the temptation of booty for fighting jihad in Allah's cause will be roasted in hell.
Ishaq. The Surah of the Hypocrites came down because some men sent secret messages to the Nadir Jews when the apostle besieged them. So Allah sent down, Have you not considered the hypocrites who say to their brethren, the people of the book,
that would be Jews,
We shall never obey anyone but you. If you are attacked
by the Muslims
and driven out, we will help you. Allah bears witness that they are liars, like Satan, when he says to men, Disbelieve.
This became Quran 59:11. The surah goes on to say,
in Quran 59:14, They are a divided people devoid of sense. There is a grievous punishment awaiting them. Satan tells them not to believe, so both of them will end up in hell.
Other hadiths say this surah was handed down regarding the expulsion of the Qaynuqa Jews and the confiscation of their property rather than the Nadir. The 59th surah, called
Confrontation,
was one of many anti-Semitic rants. Highlights include
Quran 59 verse 2. It was He,
Allah,
who drove the
Jewish
people of the book from their
Yathrib or Medina
homes and into exile. They refused to believe. You did not think that they would go away, and they imagined that their settlement would protect them against Allah. But Allah's,
actually Mohammed's,
torment came at them from where they did not suspect and terrorized them. Their homes were destroyed. So learn a lesson, O men who have eyes. This is my warning. Had Allah not decreed the expulsion of the Jews, banishing them into the desert, He would certainly have punished them in this world, and in the next they shall taste the torment of hell fire.
Why, you may wonder, were the Jews terrorized? Why were their homes stolen and destroyed? Why were Jewish families pushed into the desert to die? Why does Allah want to abuse them?
Quran 59:4. That is because they resisted Allah and opposed His messenger. If anyone resists Allah, verily Allah is severe in punishment, stern in reprisal. Verse 6. What Allah gave as booty to His messenger, He has taken away from them. For this you made no raid. Allah gives His messenger lordship over whomever He wills. Allah is able to do all things. Whatever booty Allah has given to His messenger and taken away from the
Jewish
people of the townships belongs to Allah and His messenger. So take what the messenger assigns to you and deny yourselves that which he withholds from you. Fear Allah. Allah is severe in punishment.
Someone may have spoken more demented words than these, but surely no one ever attributed them to God. To call Mohammed an anti-Semitic psychopath is too kind. 3 of Mohammed's greatest flaws were included in this racist rant. He was greedy. He wanted the entire spoil for himself. Mohammed had his God say that the Muslim militants who besieged the Jewish settlement weren't entitled to anything. A blockade, according to the dark spirit, was less deserving of booty than a terrorist raid. Mohammed was abusive. When the Jews wouldn't submit to his authority and crown him Messiah, he starved 1,000 families into submission. He stole their homes, property, businesses, and money. He threw them into the desert to die. Mohammed was also delusional. Having had his mercenaries blockade the township, the prophet said that it was really his God who had terrorized them. Then he assuaged his guilt by saying that had he not cast the Jews out and stolen their homes, his spirit buddy would have dealt them an even more vicious blow. For emphasis, I edited the means to this madness out of the passage. Mohammed bribed his mercenaries. He stole to acquire and motivate raiders. He literally bought their loyalty. Check out what followed the ellipsis in the previous verse.
Whatever booty Allah has given to his messenger and taken away from the people of the townships belongs to Allah and his messenger. And here's the ellipsis. For near relations of Muhammad,
his family and wives,
the orphans,
himself and the children of his dead raiders,
and the needy wayfarers,
his Meccan loyalists. In later hadith, Muhammad will admit to using spoils to buy loyalty. While the mercenary nature of the first Muslims is strongly implied here, it will become blatantly obvious with time. One last note before we return to Ishaq's narrative. What was Allah going to do with the stolen property? Did Muhammad throw the booty toward the Kaaba and ask Allah to grab whatever he wanted? Or was this all a ruse? Ishaq attempts to prove that the profiteer was a prophet too.
Jewish rabbis who took refuge in Islam hypocritically said one day after Muhammad's camel had wandered off, he alleges that revelations came to him from heaven, yet he doesn't even know where his camel is. When the apostle heard what this enemy of Allah had said, Allah told him where his camel was. It's in such and such a glen. Surely it was in that very spot.
One day the wind blew.
Ishaq. The prophet said, "Don't be afraid, the wind is blowing because a great unbeliever is dead." When he got back to Medina, he found that a hypocrite had died the day the wind blew.
The prophet's preaching must have been as uninspired as his scripture, because...
Ishaq. Those hypocrites used to assemble in the mosque and listen to the stories of the Muslims and laugh and scoff at their religion. So Muhammad ordered that they should be ejected. They were thrown out with great violence. Abu went to Amr, who was a custodian of the gods. He took his foot and dragged him out of the mosque. Another Muslim slapped the man's face while dragging him forcefully. "Keep out of the apostles' mosque, you hypocrite," he said. Another was punched in the chest and knocked down. One was pulled violently by his hair. "Don't come near the apostles' mosque again, for you are unclean." The first 100 verses of the Cow Surah came down in reference to these Jewish rabbis and hypocrites.
This is fundamental Islam at its very best. The hadith goes on to explain the purpose of this new religion.
Ishaq. It is a guide for those who fear Allah's punishment. It is for those who believe in the unseen, perform prostrations, share what Allah provides with the apostle, and pay the zakat tax, expecting a reward.
Then, speaking of the Jews, Muhammad had his God say,
Ishaq. Allah has sealed their hearts and their hearing, blinding them so that they will never find guidance. And that is because they have declared you a liar, and they do not believe in what has come down to you from their Lord, even though they believe in all that came down before you. For opposing you, they will have an awful punishment.
According to Muhammad, the reason the Jews rejected him had nothing to do with his hypocrisy, his acting like a pirate while pretending to be a prophet. It had nothing to do with the demented nature of his scripture. Their denial was a miracle from God. How's that for delusional?